Okay folks, this is the Autosoft workshop system, and it's not a bad tool for managing your workshop and your workflow. Let me show you a couple of things about the way it works. Up the top here I'm going to choose the workshop menu and go into what's called a booking diary. Now in here the system records for us which jobs we've got booked on a particular given day. We can see for Saturday we've got these jobs booked in, Monday these ones, Tuesday those, and on Wednesday these ones here. Now we can see, as they change over on the side here, that there's a number of hours for each day. The hours show up and changes the colour, so as you reach capacity of your workshop, you can see just quickly visually when you've got time available. These ones here in green, they're the ones you want to try and book people into. So let's try and make a booking here for Monday. All we've got to do is hit the Open Create Booking button down the bottom. And what it does is it opens up a draft repair order, if you like, and the idea is that you fill in the details as you go. Now, if I click the little ellipsis button, it gives me a list of all the vehicles I've already had come to the workshop, and I can call them up again. And if I want to add a new one, I hit the Add New Vehicle button here, at which time I can select from an existing customer, or I can add in a new customer. Let's add a new one in, just to show you how it works. So I'm going to make this fella on cash terms, because he's a new fella, and I'm going to put his name in here. Now his surname is Jacobs, and his first name is Greg. Now I'm going to put in his display name as Mr. Greg Jacobs, because that's what I want to see on the invoice, and I'm going to put his address in here too. 1062 High Street in Mordialloc. And I hit F4 here, and it tells me the postcode and the state. Now, the next thing I want to do is put in the details of his car, which he's booking in. So you can get as much or as little as that as you want on the phone. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to get some details about the vehicle. It might be rego, you might start with the rego, and let's put that in here. Now the idea of this is you can actually search your database to see if you've got that vehicle on file already, because there is a chance that it may already be in your system and it's been serviced when it was owned by a different customer. But in this case it's a new customer and a new vehicle. I'm going to put in the Holden Commodore, and it's a VY Executive, and I don't know the build date at this stage. I don't know things like the VIN and all that sort of stuff, or even the colour. That's fine. I just hit OK. And what it does is it's creating the booking here for Greg Jacobs, and his vehicle's already on there as well. Well, the last thing I want to do here, so I should also put in who's making the booking, which is me, the workshop manager, and of course also the date I want to book it in for. So the 1st of November 2010, and he's going to drop it off at 8 o'clock. Now the next thing is what he's bringing it in for. Now I've got a list of jobs in here, and I'm going to select the disc brake service is what he's bringing it in for. So I put one of those on there, and I hit the save button and go back to my diary, and for Monday now we can see Greg Jacobs is booked in for Monday. Now the next thing I'll show you is the Job Control Center. On the day when the vehicle arrives, you want to be able to manage the work that's in the shop, know it's booked in, and know when things are in progress and when they're complete. What we'll do here in the Job Control Center is we'll find our job here, that's Greg Jacobs there with the Commodore, and we'll open that up. Now let's say the customers come in and they want to do some work on the vehicle. So what we want to do is we take the keys, and then we'll probably print out here the actual job card. So what I'll do is I'll hit print job card, and that'll send this straight to the printer. Now I'll show you what that looks like. We can see it here now on the screen. So it prints out a repair order. There's a barcode on the top there, customer's name, details of the vehicle, and the work which we've been asked to perform. And then down the bottom you can have maybe some terms and conditions and an authority to perform the work by the customer, which they can sign off for you. Now with that printed out, back in the Job Control Centre, we can now see that Greg Jacobs' vehicle is now work in progress, and that lets us know that the work has started. Now let's say we've done the work and we're going to put a few more things on the bill for him. So what we do, we just come to the lines here and we can add simple things like LAB adds labour, and I can put 2 hours of labour on there. I can also hit the F4 button or little ellipsis, and I can choose from the drop box here things like parts, services, consumables and sublets. I might say have a look at the parts, and what it does is it allows me to put parts from my workshop stock onto the actual job. So I might say I want this engine oil filter here, click the little button there, that adds it onto the job for me. I might also want some consumables, so I click that, and if a code like con set up, and I can add consumables onto the job, and I can also type things like ENV, gives me the environmental levy. So it's quite simple adding these things on there. What we can also do is we can record the labour which we've actually done. Click on the labour line there, and I can go to the hours tab, and in here I can actually select my mechanics, and I can note down the amount of hours which they've worked on the jobs. So if I say the 1st of November, say he started at 9 o'clock and he finished at 10:45, that gives me 1.75 hours of actual work performed, and on the job there I might have rounded that up to 2 hours to invoice the client. Now only I can see that, that won't come out on the customer's invoice, but it allows me to analyse the performance of the guys and see if I'm billing more than they're working or vice versa, and I can see their efficiencies and reward them accordingly. Now let's say this job was done. I can then change the status down the bottom here, and I can set the status for complete, or I can also set it awaiting parts, or whichever is appropriate. Let's mark it complete and save the invoice. So the work's been done. Now I've gone and I've done the bill up ready for him. So back in the Job Control Centre here, I can see that he's now complete. Now what I might do at that point is I might ring the guy and let him know that his vehicle's ready to be set up. If I like, I can also use the SMS functions here. System's SMS compatible. I can SMS the customer this message here that the vehicle is ready to be picked up. Now for our final step, let's say Greg's now come into the shop, he's ready to pick his vehicle up. So what we want to do is we want to show him the bill, run him through what we've done, and get some money off him to settle the account. So what we'll do, let's open up the job. And what we can then do is what's called a print and close here. Now with a print and close, it allows us to print out the invoice without settling it. So what we'll do, we'll say OK to print that. And what that gives us is the tax invoice here. Now the idea is you can sit down with Greg and you can go over him the work that's been done and the amounts that you've charged him for the different bits and pieces, and if he's happy with that, you can take the money from him and then you can finalise the invoice. So let's say he was happy with that as it was. Now we can come in there and now hit finalise, and what that allows us to do is take payment from him in the appropriate method. So let's say he's going to pay his $307.90 here using FBOS, $307.95, and OK. Key in the final speedo for the vehicle, and what that will do is it'll allow us, we'll say no because he's had no changes, is it allows us to finalise the invoice, take the cash, and that now puts that job against the history for Greg's vehicle. Let's take a look now at some other cool things that are in the workshop system. What I'll show you is the vehicle history. In here, in this funky little screen, we go to our database here, and we can basically select a vehicle by entering in the rego number. Let's say I was looking for this one here, EYE283. I can just go EYE283, enter, takes me straight to it. I click OK, and it shows me the work that's been done on this vehicle. So I can see this one here has had one job done on it on the 1st of July. Grab another one out of there, maybe this fella here, Mr. Expensive Jobs, and we can see the work that's been performed there on his vehicle as well. Now, if we wanted to actually see that invoice again, we can just hit the reprint invoice button here, and it will bring it back up onto our screen. We can print it out, and we can see all of the different work which was done on the vehicle on that particular day. Now, some good things about this one, you can see it's actually vehicle centric, so it doesn't matter if the vehicle changes hands. If it moves from one customer to the next, it will still show you the work which has been done on that particular vehicle, which is really cool. Next cool thing I want to show you is doing service reminder letters. Now, just come up here and you click the Com Center, and what you've got in here is you've got job due, service due, and vehicle registration due. Now, the way this works is you just hit job due here, and you can do this by SMS if you want. So you can key in an SMS, hey, vehicle's ready for service, give me a buzz if you want me to book it in, or you can do it in an email or a fax, or you can even attach like a Word document here. So this one here, job due.doc, if I hit view document there, I can see a mail merge Word document here, which you can write yourself, and it says, all this stuff, rah rah rah, how's it going, vehicle due for service, looking forward to see you, etc, etc. And you can actually write that yourself, or you can use the default one that's in there and just tweak it to suit your business. Then the software's got this cool way of basically going through all of the customers, and it works out who's relevant, which vehicles need the job due reminder to go to, and you simply hit the output messages button there, and it goes and it will print out all those letters or send those emails and SMSs to all the people who are in the list, which is pretty cool. Now, something else that's worth showing you is the job codes. Now, in the job codes here, what you can do is you can create things like, if I go to service 1 here, you can set up things like preloaded jobs. Remember in Greg Jacobs' job there, how it had all the details already written in? Well, this is where it came from. Basically, you can put together your own comments and things for all of your own jobs. So you can put something like an engine B-tune here, and you can have all the different things that you want to do in there, and you can have all that come up. So all you need to do is add that code onto the invoice, and it comes up with all these comments and things already for you, so you don't have to sit there and retype the same things over and over again. You can quickly add that onto the job, make a few adjustments here and there, and half your work's already done for you. Now, you would have noticed that I pulled parts and put them on a job. Now, they're basically managed here in a workshop stock system. So I go to the stock master file, and in your system here you can have a database set up of all the parts that you regularly use. We can see here you got the code, a description, and a list and a cost price, and you can simply view those in the stock master file here. You can even preset things like the sell prices and all that sort of stuff. And you notice down the bottom here you can even set different prices for different kinds of customers. So you might have retail customers and trade customers. You might even have a rework and an internal price as well. So you've got the flexibility to set it up in any way you like. Now, before we finish up on Workshop, I just want to show you a couple other things here that I'll just mention. And the first one is that you can actually do a labour only invoice, which might be the case if you were actually doing work on a part or something for a person Where there is no vehicle attached, you don't need to set up a dummy vehicle or anything. You can actually use a specific labour only invoice. And the other one that we've got there is we've also got reconditioning invoices here as well, whereby you can actually do a reconditioning job specifically for a customer, or you can recondition parts for yourself and put them in a stock and subsequently put them then onto other workshop invoices. So if you want to know more about that, let us know and we'll give you some more information about how the labour and the reconditioning invoice repair orders work. Now also in the system you've got what's called the accounts, and you've got a debtors and you've got a creditors system. Now this is basically debtors are the people that owe you money, and creditors are the people you owe money to. Now the good thing about this system is it lets you see, by running a report here, basically who owes you money. So if I run what's called a debtors trial balance, I run that to the screen, it shows me all the people that I've done work for, and it shows me how much money they owe me. So in this case here, I've got quite a bit of money owed to me. So it shows me the current, so they're the people I've done work for in this month, and then 30, 60 and 90 days and beyond. So I can see where the money is due from. So in this case, I'd be looking to get in contact with some of these people and basically to get some money in. Now what we can also do with debtors is we can do statements. So I go to the output statements there, and I can choose if I want to send these electronically or on paper. I'll say I want to print them. So what I want to do is print me the statements as of the 30th of the 10th, which is today, and I'm going to use the plain paper, and I just hit create list there, and it goes quickly through the system and it finds me all of the people who owe me money, and then I can just hit output statements and it sends those direct to the printer for me. Now I'll show you just quickly what these look like. On my sample customer here, Bell Contracting, we can see all of the invoices are listed here, and the invoice numbers, for the reference numbers for them, and the amounts which each job was for. And then down the bottom basically tells me the periods that they fall into and how much is due and owing. So for a customer who maybe has one job there, so like Automotion Mechanics here, we can see that it's $530 which is owed to us from this July invoice. And this is what they'd look like, have your logo and stuff there and business details, but they look nice and crisp and professional. So I guess the next obvious thing with debtors is receiving money. So let's go and take some money from some of these debtors. So I come in here to receipts and I simply grab the debtor off the list. Let's say Automotion Mechanics are going to make a payment, and basically the date that they've given me the money, and I can see here on the balances tab how much they owe, so it's $530.20. Hopefully they'd send me a nice check for the right amount, but I can check that anyway. Now in the transactions here you can see it brings up a list there of the invoices owing. So $530.20, I tick that there, show it's paid, and I can basically do a receipt for that if I like, and I can print out a receipt for the customer, and I can then hit the finalize button, and it's asking me how he's paid. So yeah, it was a check. Tab through the check number, the name of the company, and then you only have to do this once and it remembers, but Automotion Mechanics, so the bank name, say, was NAB, and BSB number, and OK. And then that updates that, so Automotion Mechanics no longer owe me any money. And I can see these things in what's called the debtor master file. If I jump into the debtor master file here, I can see all of my customers. So Automotion Mechanics there comes up. I can see, their details here. I can see his contact numbers, the address where he's at, all that sort of stuff. I can see the balance, which is now 0 because he's paid. But if I skip to some of these other ones, I'll just scroll forward there to Bell Contracting. Now I can see the balance there in the customer's actual file. And on the queries I can see cool things like the debtor history, which shows me the original invoice and the debtor receipt. What's even cooler is I double click these and it takes me straight back to the source document and I can see what it actually was. So it's nice and easy there, nice double clicks. Now on the flip side, it's creditors, so it's the people you owe money to. Now the system's good in that regard too, because it also shows me, if I go and do a debtor creditor trial balance, I can change it from debtor, which we just saw, now to creditor. And instead of seeing who owes me money, I can actually now see who I owe money to. Now we can see here that I actually owe quite a bit of money to some people, and it breaks that down for me into the different periods once again. So I can see the current people who I've bought things from this period, 30, 60 and 90 days. Now I'd probably want to get in a year and start paying some of these people, so I can actually see who I owe money to and I can manage my cash flow. So let's make a payment to, say, GIO workers' comp insurance there, and we go do that by doing a creditor payment, and I put in GIO and pull them up on screen here, and I can actually then just tab through and it shows me all the amounts that I owe. So I can actually put in there, I'm going to pay them $189. I can tick the first one off there and I hit process, and as simple as that, I actually process the payment. That'll print off a remittance advice there for me to the printer. And now if I go back to the actual creditors master file, I can see the actual accounts and details for GIO, and in the query once again I can see the history for this creditor as well as all the other bits and pieces that relate to them, all in the one screen there. So good question, how do we get these things in? And that's by doing invoices. So what we might do is we might go to the workshop system here, and I'll show you a couple of cool things in here. We can actually do from the workshop system what's called a stock order, and I'll jump in here. So I jump into the stock order and I can select the supplier. Let's make it the parts shop. Tap through the purchaser, that's me. Let's say I'm the parts manager now, and I can jump through here and I might just do an auto create, which will go through the stock for me and pick up any things that I need to buy. And it's brought me up 4 or 5 things there, so I'll use those and I will hit the finalize button now. Now what that's done is it's created a stock order for me, which will print out that I can send to a supplier, and then they should send me the parts and a creditor invoice for me to process into my system. So let's jump into now the creditor system, go to creditor invoice. Let's say now those parts have arrived and I've got the parts in my hand and I've got the bill from the supplier. Now I've got to bring those into stock, and I do that by jumping into the creditor invoice and going into the parts shop, tab, 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 put in their invoice number, the date of their invoice, the amount of the invoice, and then I hit stock order. I select order number 40006, which was the one they've sent me, and it brings the parts onto the creditor invoice for me. Now the total of this invoice will be $1,009.75, so I can go 1009.75 at the top there, and it will allow me now to process this in. So the parts shop, hit process, the parts go into stock, and in the accounts here in creditors, if I go into the parts shop there, and what I can actually see in the query is my invoice for $1,009.75. And what do you know? Double click it, brings it back up on the screen for me. It's pretty cool. Let me now show you the cool things you can do with the system from a GL and accounting point of view. Now the GL and accounting is relevant to the standard workshop standard systems, where the things we've seen previously are available in Workshop SE, Workshop Front End, and in Workshop Standard. But from here on, it's just about the Workshop Standard system, which has got the general ledger system attached to it. Now, the best thing you can do if you've got Workshop Standard is you can actually run accounting reports. If I jump into the report console here and I go to General Ledger, all these reports that you'll hear your accountant talk about, you can actually run from the system. The first one I'll show you, a balance sheet, which is one of the key accounting reports that you need to provide your accountant, and it shows you here all your different things like your cash accounts, receivables, inventories, your non-current assets like your equipment and your vehicles and stuff. It'll also show you the money that you owe people, so things like the creditors that we were looking at earlier, as well as your HP liability, many loans you've got, how much you owe the ATO from a tax point of view on there, and also over the page there it just shows you your net assets and your total equity, which is really cool. So that's your balance sheet. It also will do for you a profit and loss. So if we have a look at the P&L here, very important report. It shows you if you're making or losing money. So in here we can see that for the month of October, we can see the amount of sales we've done. We can see the costs. We can also see our other expenses that we've got, our overheads like bank fees and depreciation, HP charges. Over the page, all the other bits and pieces like wages and all that sort of stuff are all there. And it shows us here that we've actually made a small profit, a year-to-date loss of 9,000, but we've made a profit this month of 1,400. And you can see here, I've deliberately done this way to show you how it'll show you your net profits and over time your growth and your different trends here in your sales and stuff. So that's your profit and loss statement. Now, you'll also notice in here, you've got these are all in blue. You can actually click these blue ones and it will give you another little report that comes up. And from the report viewer there, it'll actually show you all the invoices and stuff that make up these totals that you see in the profit and loss statement. The next very important one is GST. So with the GST BAS amounts here, I actually put in the period I want to look at. So I want to do the period which is the 1st of July through to the end of September. So I'm going to make that there, 30th September, and cash or accruals. Let's say I was doing it on the accruals method. I can then click run, and what it does is it shows me how I've got what I've got in the accounts for GST paid versus GST collected. Now I'd want to be getting this BAS done pretty soon because I've got a good refund due to me. I've got $3,000 in GST collected and I've got $10,000 in GST paid, and that's because I've got some big equipment purchases and things in there. I've presumed that this business would have started, say, at the beginning of this quarter, and we've got some good capital items here. A capital purchase of $100,000, which is, it might be the work ute, it might be the hoists and things like that. All those things you want to put in there. You want to make sure you've got a good system that tracks the GST properly for you, so you can make sure you get your refunds due. Now, on the transaction side here, works in a similar way. You select, the period you're looking at, the 1st of July to the end of September. I can just click the date there if I want, and I can see here for the accruals method all of the transactions. Oops, that's me not clicking it right. Change that to G1 sales, all of the transactions that make up the totals. So the first report showed me all of the totals, and this shows me what makes up the totals. So it's pretty cool. So you can give this to your accountant. They can zip through this report, go yep, no, and tell you if there's any problems in your data there, and that makes sure that you are either paying or claiming the right amount of GST when you do your tax. Now, I won't bore you too much with the details of how all the general ledger comes about, but I'll just give you a sneak preview here. We've got in here preloaded a chart of accounts that suits a workshop, so you don't have to worry about all the heartache of setting these things up. They're all in there and all configured for you. Now, when I say it's all configured, I mean I've given it names like sales, service, parts, all that sort of stuff. You can do a little fine tuning, things like rename a couple of things, add maybe some new overheads and all that sort of stuff if you want. You might have a particular expense category you want to keep. You can add those in, but on the whole, these accounts that are in there stay there, and they give you the framework of your accounting. Now the system's all sort of geared up and mapped up to put them all in the right spots for you, so the actual accounting knowledge from the front end of the business all falls into the right places in the general ledger. Using the query in here, I can see things like the transaction history for different accounts. If I look at this one here, sales, service, labour, I can see all of the transactions that have fallen into that account, and I can also see things like the original invoice just by double clicking it from within that screen, which is very handy if you're quickly looking at this and wanted to know what something was. Just to double click on that, it shows you everything you need to know. You can also see the balances of all the accounts, so it's like a quick trial balance you can do there. There was also a trial balance back in the report console there, which if your accountant's looking for that, it's there too. There's a trial balance, and he might want to see that. An accountant's report doesn't really tell you much from a business owner's point of view, but he might want to see that. Now also in our system here, we can move money around within the general ledger by doing journals. I'll show you a couple of ones I've done earlier. So maybe it was something like this here. This was a journal to take up the hoists. There's also the ability to do standing journals in there too. So if I clear that out, I might do, say, a depreciation charge for November, and just tab through there, say 30th of the 11th, 2010, and I go standing journal and depreciation charges, and voila, it all comes in preloaded from the standing journal that I've set up earlier. For the end of the day, we've got a till menu in here and a till reconciliation system. Now this allows you to see all of the transactions that are taken place in the business throughout the course of the day or the week, or however long it is that you want to reconcile your till over. This here shows me all the transactions that have taken place. Now the idea is that at the end of the day you get your people to cash up, and they might say 200 in hundreds, 200 in 50s, $80 in 20s, 100 in 10s, and what happens you see over here is you start to get a reconciliation, and they'll also be able to do the cents there as well. Let me just quickly make that 25 to agree, and you've got the FPOS, let's say that was 306, you'll have a variance there, and the same with checks, 56, 5490. And what it does is it gives you a till rec. Now if you actually close this off, you can see a till reconciliation sheet that you might get you guys to fill out. If you've got a workshop where someone's looking after the cash, they can give you this, and it shows any differences, and if there was a big difference you might want to ask what went on and get some lowdown from them. But it basically gives a reconciliation of what's happened. You close the till there, yes to that, and it's got these variances. What it actually does for that $1.95, it'll go and post a variance into the GL for you. So that keeps that nice and tidy. Now another really cool feature is this thing will do a bank deposit slip for you. So you basically put in the date range that you've taken the cash and the checks over, and put in the cash that you're going to bank. So say $60 there, and $80 in tens, all that sort of stuff, and something like $5.80 in coins, something like that, and hit the run button. And voila, the thing goes and prepares a bank deposit slip for you. Now it lists all of the checks you've got, and it lists all the cash, gives you a total deposit there, when you can print that out and take that into the bank. Now another funky feature in here is we've got the bank undeposited funds. What this does is it allows you to look at all the different transactions that have taken place in the system and allows you to marry them back to different things like the FPOS, for example. So if we were to come in here and tick off the 2 FPOS transactions, we'd be able to see the total FPOS is $306. Now if we were doing that for a day, that should marry back to the little settlement statement, and you know your system is going to be the same as your bank. So you'd simply process that there, and it'll put the FPOS onto your bank reconciliation, which is just in here in banking. Now the bank reconciliation is very cool. Let's make this statement number 1, the first statement, and we open with $0. And what it does is it has all the transactions here up to the 30th of the 10th for my system. So basically I run down here and I just tick things off and I say, yeah, got that, missing that check's not in, whatever. Go through, tick all these off, and it gives me basically the balances that are in the account, and I should be able to cross-reference those straight back to my bank statement. If I go right to the end there and I look at the transaction we were putting in for our FPOS, and there it is, $306 being banked in today, and I tick that off, and I do the same for cash and checks. So if I was to come in and do another one here and pick the bank account, the next one is cash and checks, and I'd go tick, 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 and that'll give me cash and checks of $5,654. I process that one, and straight over onto my bank rec, just hit the refresh button and scroll to the end there, and I should be able to see, there we are, $5,500 in checks and deposits there, so, and cash deposited. So it's as simple as that. Really handy bank reconciliation tool, and you know, bank undeposited funds functionality there to make sure that your figures are basically right. If it agrees to the bank, you've generally got most of all the transactions in there. Maybe not in the right expense category or whatever, but from an accounting point of view, you know it's complete. For those who are looking for payroll, you'll find that here also. Now this payroll system works on the SE, the front end, and the standard system. So the way it works, I'll show you here, is it all is run by exceptions. So if I come in here and I enter in the next payroll date, which will be the 5th, the 11th, 2010, and normal payroll, and it brings up my 2 employees here, Edwin Edwards and Albert Rogers. Now you can see where I'm in from standard wages, there's actually a wage template already set up for these guys here. So all I need to do is simply put in the exceptions. So let's say this guy had a day off annual leave, I just put 8 hours in there, tab through, it all posts accordingly, and say Albert had a day off in sick leave, I might put that there as 8 hours for Albert, tab through, all recalculates. All I need to do then is hit process, and yes to process payroll, and I say OK there, and it prints out the pay slips for me, and it goes and does all the calculations that we need it to do. And if you're running Autosoft Standard, it'll post those into your financials. So a quick look at what it just did. I'm looking at the pay advice here now for the 5th of November. Bring it up onto the screen. And you can see here Edward Edwards pay advice. So it shows here his gross pay, his POIG, super, and it also gives him his holiday pay taken, his overtime, all the bits and pieces, his leave entitlements, everything you expect to see on a payslip is there. And there's the one for Albert Rogers there too. So it does the payslip, and it also gives you a breakdown of deductions, holidays owing, you run that there, it'll show you the holidays outstanding for these guys. So give you a holidays owing report. You can see the superannuation, which is payable. So say we're going to do that for the period of October. I run that to screen. It shows me the super I've got to remit to the superannuation companies, which is pretty cool. It also gives me a breakdown of payroll classification here, so I can run that there. And that shows me gross, PAYG, super and net, so I can easily reconcile my wages for things like workers' comp insurance and superannuation, bits and pieces like that. I can see the summary of any payroll which was done. Let's look at the one we just did. Shows me there how much was paid for each of them, so a quick glance over that compared to some previous ones. Quickly see if they look in order, and it hasn't been a mistake in there with the amount we're paying these guys. You can also run similar reports by date and also by employee there as well. So if we're going to run that for the period of October by employee, it'll show us once again another breakdown of how we've paid our two different employees, super, PAYG, and gross and net amounts of pay. Some other cool stuff with the payroll system. It will do an EFT bank file creation, so you can set these dudes up to have their pay go straight out of their bank accounts. Jump into the employees file here. Let's have a look at old Edwin, and we can see here he's got his bank details, and it's allowed him to have, you know, different accounts set up that he might want different parts of his pay to go into, and also holds on to his standard wages here, super, any entitlements and deductions that he might have, and as well as his particulars like his address, tax file number, start dates, hourly rates, tax-free threshold, bits and pieces like that. Some other cool stuff, you can actually reverse a payroll. So if you've done it and done it wrong, you can back it back out. Always handy. And the payroll system is also very flexible in that you can set up as many different categories of wages, deductions, entitlements, anything like that that you need.